So that's why I want to talk about the big controversy with the NHL Lottery. Of course, it happened on Monday. Definitely anticipated to see, of course, who was be picking the first overall pick, especially the top three. We had Anaheim, Columbus, and Chicago. And this is where the speculation of being rigged comes in, where it was announced what on TV what the third overall team was before it was even actually revealed of who was actually selecting third. Again, and of course we see a lot of people already blasting the NHL and calling it rigged. Again, after a host appears to announce pick early with Connor Bernard's future at stake. And there's a ton of definitely a ton at stake here. Know that one of the best players in recent drafts. So people kind of compare him to Connor McDavid. You look at the stats; is absolutely dominant in 57 games this past year. He had it at the WHL, or I said no OHL. He had in 57 games. He had 143 points, 71 goals, 72 assists. To put in perspective from last year, he had 62 games, 100 points, or 41 goals. So, or sorry, 51 goals. So basically had 20 plus more, or 20 more goals than the previous year. But his last 2 years are absolutely dominant. And then the U20 for that playoff run, in 7 games he had 20 points. Again, nothing short of dominant, and of course, a ton at stake here with the draft. Again, Anaheim being the worst team. If we switch over to the odds, they had no doubt the biggest odds at 25.5, being the first pick, or worst team I should say. Second worst was Columbus at 13.5, and Chicago at third at 11.5. The only reason why you see 10 teams listed on this screen, not 16, is because they put a rule in place where the highest every team can move up to is 10 spots. So, of course, Columbus being 10, they're the last team to have the opportunity to move at 10, but, of course, having the worst odds at 3%. And obviously, you go up, St. Louis at 3.5, Detroit 5, Washington 6, Philly 6.5, Arizona 7.5, Montreal 8.5, San Jose 9.5. And of course, we just named the top 3 teams that have the best odds. So it looks pretty cut clear, obvious that Anaheim should get the first overall pick. They have, if you're comparing from Chicago, since we already know they won it, they had 14% chance higher to receive him. And the fact that Columbus moves down from 2 to 3, and Chicago jumps all the way from 3 to 1. Of course, Anaheim falling to 1 and 2. It does kind of feel a little bit rigged. Regardless, I just don't like the lottery to begin with. I like how the NFL is, where if you're the worst team, you get the top pick. I know the lottery is there to combat tanking, but if teams desperately are tanking, they most likely need that player. And put it in perspective for football, Jacksonville in 2021, the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, and they were battling between him and them in New York. New York screwed up and won 2 games at the end of the year. Jacksonville fell right into him. It looked like for most of the year that he was going to be a job. Jacksonville wins that, and you see how Jacksonville is right now. One of the best teams in the NFL, had an amazing run last year. They desperately needed him. In 2020, of course, we had the Bengals, Joe Burrow, definitely a top 3 team, you can argue, in the NFL, turned their life around. In that same year, Miami was tanked for Tua. They got Tua. Of course, he has injury concerns, but helped turn that team around this year. This year, you had Bryce Young sweepstakes. Again, if teams are tanking on purpose, they desperately need the player. Another one, as a Sabres fan, this really reminds me of 2015, when to me it felt like, I don't know what the offhand what the odds were exactly, but we did have the best odds because we were the worst team in hockey, and we got screwed over in McDavid. And we got Jack Eichel, and he was a great player, but he's not Connor McDavid. And it's the same way for this draft. You had Finiti, if I pronounce it. If I have that right, Francili, I should say, the center from Michigan. Great player. He had in 35 games, he had 65 points. but he's not Connor Bernard, who had 143 points in 57 games. And that's the big issue that comes in, is that it does feel like it was skewed. I'm not going to say every single year. It definitely depends on who's in the draft. If you have a Connor Bernard, a Connor McDavid, or Austin Matthews, I do feel like it tends to move a little bit in that direction, depending on what said team is there. Of course, at the top three, Columbus, Anaheim, and Chicago. No doubt, in terms of a hockey market, Chicago is probably the best one outside Anaheim and Columbus. I look at it as, I don't think the NHL looks at it as a good look for Bernard to be stuck in Anaheim, seeing how bad they are. Same thing for Columbus, but Chicago definitely sells, especially with who they just got rid of in the trade deadline. Patrick Kane, first overall pick in 2007. Look what he did. Help lead a dynasty, 3 Stanley Cups. Can you imagine if we can get someone like that again? The next Patrick Kane, or if not better than Patrick Kane, Connor Bernard in Chicago. It sounds a lot better than Connor Bernard in Anaheim. Connor Bernard in Columbus doesn't have a nice ring to it as Chicago. So again, I really feel bad for Anaheim. Even if there was nobody rigged it whatsoever and it was genuine, I still don't like the lottery to begin with because it screws teams over. It screwed Anaheim over. They were the worst team in hockey, whether they tanked or not. They deserve them. They need him. They need someone to help pivot that franchise in a much better direction. And that was supposed to be Connor Bernard. The fact that you're gonna say rigged or just unfortunate. This is why the lottery should not be in place, not just the NHL, but any sport. It ruins teams, especially for the long run. For the Sabres, again, for us, it seems like we're finally doing better, but there's always me the what if about what if we had Connor McDavid. For Austin Matthews, I don't know who the top teams were in the lottery for Austin Matthews, but those teams 2 and 3 are probably wondering, what if we had Austin Matthews? And it's going to be the same way for this year for Anaheim, especially. They're going to, in a few years in the future, if Connor Bernard can be the player he is now, or at least how he's shown to be, Anaheim and definitely the fans are going to look back at this and go, if only we had Connor Bernard. And it's unfortunate that they got screwed over. I know it's not a flashy market. At least it doesn't seem like a very popular team. But they desperately needed him. And maybe he could have turned that team around and could have made them into a great team, a great market. But it just takes one. It takes one great talent to really turn around. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to lead you to Stanley Cups and do that. Obviously, it takes a team to do that, but you still need that. You still need that it player. You still need that player, that one player that really to turn your fortune around. And it's unfortunate that Anaheim got screwed over, and Chicago is getting the next Patrick Kane. And of course, in the last couple of years, not really good in the spotlight in terms of organization. So if you look at that, probably the least deserving team if you kind of factor all that in. But again, very unfortunate that Anaheim was screwed over in this draft lottery. And of course, the rest stayed the same. And for the odds, you see the top 10 here. But for the most part, it stayed the same. From 16 to 4, it was exactly the same, exactly how it was supposed to go until the top 3. And of course, like I said, we bring in the part where people are calling it rigged because it was announced early before we even actually knew who it was. But regardless of that, again, it's very unfortunate that Anaheim is the biggest victim in this, the biggest loser, no doubt. And just it sucks that Connor Bernard isn't going to the actual team that was supposed to get him. Instead, he's going to Chicago. But we'll see what happens in the draft. Obviously, we know that Chicago is taking Connor Bernard, so it's a done deal. There's going to be no surprises of passing on him. It's going to be interesting to see what Anaheim goes, but we'll see. But I just want to make a quick video on that, give you my quick thoughts on the whole lottery debacle. I know it's been a few days, probably a little too late, just haven't had time to really record a video. But with that being said, let me down below your thoughts on the draft lottery and the results. If you do think it's rigged or not. But that being said, thank you for watching. I'll see you next one.